Okay. Hello guys, you are welcome to another day of our YouTube live session. But first, apologies, we were not able to complete the project yesterday as a result of time. But as soon as we're done with this, I need you guys to subscribe and hit the notification bell icon so that you will be the first to get the notification when we do drop the full video to our Bootstrap HTML and Bootstrap project tomorrow. But today we are going to be talking about Scratch. Ever heard of Scratch before? Well, interestingly, Scratch is a programming language that helps kids to be able to write codes and build games, and not just games, they can write animations and even build stories with the Scratch programming language. Now, we are going to be creating a Scratch account. I'm going to be showing us what to do, how to create a Scratch account, and to do that we are going to be writing Scratch codes on the Scratch Online editor. Now, to get to the Scratch Online editor, all you need to do is go to your browser. I'm going to open a new tab, and I'll type in the web address scratch.mit.edu. Scratch, I hope I spelled it correctly, .mit.edu. Great. Now there we have it, and I hit enter. Perfect. Now this is our Scratch interface. Beautiful, isn't it? And this is the interface we are going to be using to create our Scratch codes. Now, if it's your first time visiting this website, it's important that you join Scratch. Now, all the steps necessary to join Scratch would be left, a description will be left, a detailed description on how to join Scratch. We have a video on that, so a description to that video would be left in the descriptions for this video, and you would be able to just go there, watch our previous video on how to join Scratch, and you would be able to join. It's very much easy. All you need to do is click on join Scratch and fill out some bunch of informations, and you're good to go. But so that we don't spend so much time on this and we'll spend more time building our project, we would leave the description to that video, the link to the videos rather, in the description section for this video. Okay, so let's go back. Right. Now, Scratch is very interesting, being that it also allows you create Scratch games and animations without joining. To simply do that, after getting to the website scratch.mit.edu, all you need to do is click on create. And once you do that, it loads up the Scratch Online editor. Perfect. Another beautiful interface. Now this is the exact interface that we are going to be writing our Scratch codes. Let me walk you through the interface. First, you can see really colorful designs here, and each of these designs represent blocks of codes. As you can see, they are properly labeled: motion, looks, sounds, events. You can also see them, and you can also scroll. Just in case you're looking for your blocks of code, you can also scroll, and you also to every single block of code here. Now, Scratch is designed such that you are expected to drag and drop these blocks of code in this white space here. I'm going to close this out. In this white space here. Now, this here is called your workspace. So you are expected to drag blocks of code that perform certain actions in your workspace. Now, the outputs to these actions, you can view them right here. And this part is called a stage. And we're going to be learning a whole lot more about stage, workspace, and the blocks of codes. Interestingly, one more thing to note. We have an image right here on our Scratch page. Can you see that? Now, images in Scratch are called sprites. Sprites are images that perform certain actions in Scratch. And yes, we can add images from Scratch, and we can also upload our own custom images. But today, we would not just be uploading we will not just be adding images from Scratch, we would also be drawing. Interested to see what we're going to build? Let's go. I'm just going to take this out. As well, I would be taking out the sprite. Let's take a look at a sample of what we are going to be building. This is a maze. So we are going to be building a maze game. And the task is for the mouse that we have here to find its way up till the cake. It's supposed to find its way and get to the cake without touching any of these black lines. Now, but there's a catch. In order to get to the cake, the mouse has to open this maze without touching it. So he needs to grab the key first in order for this maze to get opened. Now, once that's done, he then have access to get the cake, also without touching any of the black lines and the big cat itself. Now, cats are not really friendly with mouse. So let's see the gameplay. Watch, I'm able to move. I'm able to move. And it says ouch whenever I touch the black line. It says ouch and it starts from the top. So I need to grab the key in order to open. Oops. It's a bit difficult. I've grabbed the key already. Oops. It's a bit difficult, but I believe you get the point now. We are going to try to build this out. And we're going to build it out in steps. Now, the step number 1 is to prepare our stage. Notice how the black lines are actually backgrounds, they're not sprites. So we are going to be drawing this background we currently have here. So that's going to be the first stage. To do that, I have to click on backdrops. Now, I have this really small purple circular button here that says choose a backdrop, but I don't want to choose. Now, clicking on choose a backdrop gives us options available within Scratch, but I don't want to use the options from Scratch because it doesn't have a maze. So I would be drawing my backdrop instead. Now I'll go back to the button, and instead of choosing, I'll select the paint brush. So I'll click on paint, and I'm going to paint a backdrop. Notice I have 2 here now, so I'm just going to delete 1, and I'll be left with 1. And I'm going to try to paint this exact backdrop. Now let's do it together. First, to paint this line, here's how to do it. I need to first select the line icon here, and notice that the outline is black. Now the color of that line is referred to as its outline. And I can increase the thickness of the outline. Watch, I can simply increase this from 4 to say 8. I think 8 is perfect. And now I can draw my backdrop. Okay, perfect. I can draw my backdrop. Hope I'm in the correct part. Okay, I just have to draw it properly. There we go. There we go. Now I have been able to draw the very first line. Easy, right? Now let's draw the other parts. The next part is another line appearing somewhere just about here. And I have another one going like this. And I have a little one coming down, carefully drawing it. And same thing goes for this. Same thing goes for this as well. Perfect. But that's not all. Let's take a look at the design again. We still have a small one here as well. So I'm going to put this here. Tiny little line. Great. And next, let's take a look at what we still have left to do. Okay. Then we have the green circle right here. We also have to add that as our backdrop. So let's do that. Now, this circle is green, so it means our outline has to be different. So to draw a circle, I'll click on this circle icon here, but my fill has to be transparent because I don't want the circle to have a color. But my outline, instead of black, should be green. I have to adjust the brightness as well so I can get the green color. Now this should be perfect green. This should be the perfect green. Good. Now I can draw the circle. Still with my circle highlighted, I just mark my location and try to draw the circle. Perfect. Now I have my backdrop done and dusted. Now interestingly, let's take a look at the design. Notice how we have another line here, but we cannot draw this line as a backdrop. The reason is because this line also listens for an event. Notice that it is when the mouse has collected the key that the line goes. So the line also listens for an event, the mouse collecting the key. So it means that that line cannot be a backdrop. So I'm going to collect that, and notice immediately I collect that line, the key rather, the line disappears. So we are going to draw the line, but not as a backdrop. Now we have completed stage number 1. Congratulations if you've been able to follow up to this point. Now stage number 2 is where we begin to add the sprites. Like I explained earlier, sprites are images that we use in our game, and we have about 4 sprites to add. The first is the mouse. Now let's add the mouse. Now I can look for the mouse, or I can search mouse 1. Great. Now I've added mouse 1. I need to place it properly. We have a little bit of a problem. Mouse 1 is bigger than its circle and it's facing a different direction, so we have to adjust that. Now to adjust that, we need to click on the directions. Excuse me, please. We need to click on the direction. Now, still on the mouse, notice I've selected the mouse. I can adjust its direction. Now, instead of 90, I can make it face downward, and I believe down should be 180. Great. See, the mouse now points downward. One more thing, we need to adjust its size. And to do that, there's a size panel here. I can adjust its size from 100 to say 60. Perfect. Or let's say 70. Let me see what 70 looks like. 70. 70 is good. Now I can properly place the mouse. Now it's time to add the cake. In the same way, I'll click on choose a sprite, and the cake should be somewhere here. Okay, found it. Cake. And again, cake is too large and we need to reduce it, say 50. But we don't need to adjust the direction of the cake. It's fine. 50 is fine. Now I've placed the cake properly. Next, we also need to add the key. To add the key, you can guess, we do the same thing. I think it's called key. Not quite sure of its name. Yeah, it's called key. Now I can properly place the key in its position. Good. Now finally, we also need to add that big cat. And again, I'm not quite sure of its name. It's cat 2. And we add it properly. Let's place it somewhere here. And of course, we also need to adjust its direction. This has to face upwards. Okay, that's 0. Perfect. Perfect. Now, for the final sprite, we don't add this one. We draw it. Remember, I spoke about the little line that covers this maze. Great. We do not add that. We draw it instead. We draw it instead. So, instead of clicking on choose a sprite, I would paint. And you can guess what. I need to select the straight line, make sure that we have the same color, or better still, I can make it a different color just so we notice. I can make it red so we know the difference. Just so you know the difference. I can make it red, and now I can draw the line. Easy. Now I can place this line properly here. Good. Now we have successfully completed the stage 2 of designing the maze game. Now to stage 3, where we need to write the code to help out with the maze game. Great. Now, let's dive into writing the codes bit by bit. But first, I think we should start with the mouse, which is the main character, the mouse. So we are going to be writing codes for the mouse. And to do that, you first need to click on the mouse, and that is to make sure that your mouse is currently highlighted. Because if you don't, you might be writing codes for the cake, the key, the cart, or even the background without realizing. So first, make sure you are highlighting the mouse, and we can begin to write our code. Notice how we have a green flag at the top here. Well, that green flag says go, which means we use that to start our game. Alternatively, there are other commands that you can use to start our game, and you can find those commands in the events block. You can see we have when flag clicked, when space pressed, when the sprite clicked, there are others, but majorly you can find them in the events block. So, to start our game, we will be using when flag clicked. But the first thing I want to do is to make sure that whenever the flag is clicked, regardless of where this mouse is, it must be exactly in this position, inside the circle. To do that, we need to take note of the current position of the mouse, and that is the X and Y values of the mouse. Now it's currently on X position minus 184 and Y position 126. So to make sure that whenever we click on this flag, the mouse always starts at this position, we need to attach another block. Remember, this says when flag clicked. We need to tell Scratch what to do when the flag is clicked. Now, when flag clicked, I want to go to this particular position, position X minus 184 and Y 126. Now let's test this out to see if this works. So I'm going to drag this, place it anywhere, and let's click on this green flag. If I click on this green flag, if it works, then the mouse should reappear right here at the center. Perfect, right? Let's do it again. Perfect. It works just fine. Now we need to write code to make our mouse move. Now notice how the mouse in the example earlier is able to move in all four directions, left, right, up or down. We need to write the same blocks of code. To do that, we'll be needing a loop, and that is going to be your forever loop. Your forever loop helps us repeat any and all blocks of code inside it forever. I'll bring the forever loop and I'll attach it right here. Now, let us see what happens if we add a block from the motions category. See? So, and let's see what happens if I put that block outside of the forever loop. Watch. Nothing happens. When flag clicked, go to X and move 10 steps, and it just does that. And nothing more. If I attach this, if I click on the flag now, it just moves 10 steps once and nothing more. But that's not what we want. We want to be able to press on the arrow keys on our computer to be able to direct the movement of our mouse. To do that, we need to add the forever loop, and just before moving 10 steps, we first need a conditional to check if we actually are pressing any of the arrow keys. Now, an example of a conditional is the if-then statement. Now, this helps us check if a particular condition is met, then the next action happens. So I'm going to add the if-then block right inside the forever loop. And we now need to fill out the if-then block. Notice how it has 2 spaces. So we need to fill it out with a condition that needs to be met. And that condition is if the up arrow key is pressed. So I have a block that says key space pressed here. So I bring it in, I'll switch it from space down to up arrow, and I'll add it here. Now if up arrow key is pressed, I want to move 10 steps. Now watch what happens. I can start the game and nothing happens, but if I press the up arrow key, it's not moving upwards, it's moving downwards. It does move 10 steps whenever I press the up arrow key, but it doesn't go upwards. Rather, it moves downwards. So we need to fix that. And in order to fix that, there are some blocks of code we need to add before moving 10 steps. We first need to point in the direction where we want to go. And you can find that block in the motions section. So you can point in direction just before moving, and you want to point upwards. Now I'll stop my game and I'll try to start it. If I press the up arrow key, now notice it goes upwards. But for the down arrow, nothing happens yet, so we also need to do similar. So I'm just going to duplicate this, place it right here, and make the necessary adjustments. So I'm going to say if down arrow pressed, point in direction down 180 and move 10 steps. Again, let's test it out. Now it's facing upwards and downwards as well. You can move up, you can move down, but you can't move left or right just yet. So we also need to fix that. Again, I'm just going to duplicate this and place it underneath here. And I'm going to edit this, make sure it's key right arrow pressed, and I believe this. Yes, 90 degrees. Now I'm just going to repeat the same thing for the left arrow as well, so we can test it out all at once. Left arrow, and I have to make sure this points left. Perfect. Now let's test it out and see if it works. I move up, down, left, and right. Up, down, left, and right. So it works perfectly. We have been able to fix the code for moving the sprite, the mouse. Interesting. Now, but you notice that the mouse is able to cross. It's able to touch the black line and nothing actually happens. So we have to fix that now. Great. We have to fix it now properly. Good. So now whenever the mouse touches the black line, then it should start afresh. It should go back to, let's see that position again, position x minus 184 and y 126. So it means we also need another if block. And to do that, I can go to controls and look for an if then block. I'll add it again inside, directly inside the forever loop. This is directly inside the forever loop. And I want to check for a different condition. I want to check if it's touching a particular color. And what color is that? Black. The color black. Or if I don't know the color, I can as well use the swatch and click on the color I want, and it gives me the exact color. If you want to see it, use the swatch again, and I can try to click on the color for the cake, and see it gives me the exact color. So but I want black. I already know black as well, so perfect. Now if touching black, then we want to do something. We want to say ouch for 2 seconds. We want to say ouch for 2 seconds, and after saying ouch for 2 seconds, we also want to go back to its previous position. We want to go to x minus 184 and y 826. Now let's test it out. If I touch the black line, it says ouch for 2 seconds, and it does go back. Now notice how it's constantly pointing in different directions whenever it touches. We need to fix that. And to fix that, you can guess. Let's do this. I have to point in direction 180. To make sure that whenever the flag is clicked, it always points in the downward direction. Notice how it's properly adjusted now. Now let's test it out one more time. See? Press the green flag properly. Great. Now, let's fix the other part. We have been able to write a lot of codes for the mouse, and the mouse is able to move. Now, what about the big cat? Notice that the big cat always moves to and fro, up and down. Now, to mirror that movement, we first of all have to click on the big cat. I'll click on the big cat, and I have my big cat here now. Notice I don't have any code on the big cat. All the codes I have are on the mouse. So now I have to write codes for the big cat, to respond. Now for the big cat again, whenever the flag is clicked, I want it to constantly move. And again, whenever you want to constantly repeat an action or block of code, you need the forever loop. So we go to our go-to loop, the forever loop, attach it here. But what do we want to do forever? We want to first make sure that we move to and fro forever. But we need the position, the current position of the kitten, it's called cat2. Yeah, it's called cat2. We need the current position of cat2, and we also need its final position. So when flag is clicked, we want cat2 to always start from the bottom here, just like we did for the mouse. So we go to motion and go to X this particular position. Now, next, we always want it to move from this up, get to this point, and then turn right back. In order for us to do that, we also need to take note of this point where the cat2 is, and that's x201 and y136. So we also need to make sure that it glides 1 second to x201 and y136. But not just that, we need to be sure that the cat2 always faces upwards. So yes, you can guess it, we need to add the point in direction block. Alright? Now, when it gets to this point, it needs to turn backwards. Right? It needs to turn backwards. But first, let's make sure it points upwards. And let's see. Let's test it out. See? It does work, but it doesn't, like, it does work, but it doesn't come back. So we need to now make it come backwards. Now, for it to come back, we also need to glide 1 second. Sorry, oh my god, I pressed that block of code I shouldn't have. We also need to glide 1 second to its earlier position. But before we glide 1 second to its earlier position, just like we did here, we also need to point in the direction of 180 to make it come downwards. And its earlier position was 204 and minus 1 minus 131. There we have it. Now let's test it out and see. Notice how now the cat2 or the cat is now able to glide, and at the same time our mouse is able to move. And if it touches, it begins to say ouch. Interesting, right? Good. Now let's continue. Now it's time for us to be able to write codes for the key. And the key is another very interesting piece because the key this time communicates. Again, let's write the codes for the key. And for the key, like we did earlier, we have to also add when flag clicked. And just like we did with all, we need to make sure that the key is in its current position. And that is X 193 and Y 164, which is good. But then we also need to add one more thing. Let's do that as we keep writing the codes. We definitely would figure out what we need to do. I'm sure we would say. Now we've made sure that whenever the flag is clicked, the key always appears at this exact spot. But then whenever this mouse touches this key, the key is expected to disappear. So to do that, again, I add the forever loop, and I want to check if touching mouse, remember I'm on the key, if touching mouse 1, then I'd like to hide. Let me hide. Then I'd like to hide. Now, let's see if this works. My bad. See, now it works, but then we also need to be able to at least hide this. But to hide this, now we have a problem because the sprites ordinarily can communicate with themselves. But in Scratch, there's a block of code that forcefully helps us make sprites communicate with themselves. Now, that block of code is called the broadcast message block. And I can find that in the events. Now, if I go to events, as soon as the key is hidden, I need to broadcast a message. Now this message gets to all sprites in my game. I can write a custom message and says hidden. Okay, perfect. Now whenever the key is gone, then the message hidden is broadcast to all the sprites. But take note, as we started the game again, the key disappears. And that's because we hid it earlier. So in order for us to always make sure that the key appears when we start the game, all we need to do is add a show block. If there's a hide block, then there's a show block. So let's see. Now you see, it appears. Stop. Now whenever this has touched the key, it broadcasts a message. Now what we do with the message is the next thing. Let's see. Again, like we did before, when flag clicked, we are now on the red. Notice how we're now on the red sprite, on the red line. We have to add when flag clicked, we have to do something. When the flag is clicked, we always want to show, hold up, we always want to show that red line. But then again, a message has been broadcast, and when that message gets broadcast, it's only when the mouse has touched the key. So we want to do something when that message has been broadcast. So we go back to events, and you see when I receive. Now notice how it says when I receive the message that was broadcast earlier, hidden. I want to hide. Now let's test it out. Now we go. There you have it. Now we're able to create all of this. Final step would be for us to be able to collect the cake, and as you can guess, on the cake you need to repeat the same trick. You click on the event, you add the when flag clicked, and again your forever loop. You need to check if the cake is touching mouse 1. If you go to sensing, if touching mouse 1, then you want to hide. But at the same time, at the initial stage, you always want to see your cake. Oh, that should be show, not hide. Show. Great. Now let's try to play the game. Let me make it bigger, and let's see what we have been able to create so far. Wow, I lost out there. So let's do this again. I need to try to make it in before the card returns. Oops, I lost out again. I was too quick. Ouch. It's a bit difficult, but my final trial before we wrap up for the day. It's a bit difficult playing the game, you know. even though I made it. Wow. Final trial, and I still wasn't able to get my cake. But maybe I should do this. Since I made it, I can cheat a little just to show you that the cake actually works. Oops, that's too much. See? Now, there you have it. But again, I think it would be nice for us to display a message that says you won once it has collected the cake. Now, to do that, let's go to the cake, and as you can guess, all we need to do is in the look section, say you won. Say, let me say you win. Say you won. Now let's do this. And let's test it out and see. It's a bit difficult playing the game. So, oopsies. I still lost out. Okay. Now, let's see if it says you win. Let's see. Okay. Oh, not here. Okay, not here. We have to do that for the mouse, not on the cake. So we need to do the same thing and go to the controls, F, touching cake, if touching cake, then we have to now say you win. You win. Final test. Now let's do this. Here we go. Now it says you win. Now I hope you guys had a very interesting time trying to build this out with me. If you had any difficulties, please feel free to leave your comments down below, and we'll get back to you with responses as quickly as we can. And do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also turn on your notification bell icon so that you would be the first to get a notification when a new video drops. I hope you guys had fun writing out this scratch codes with me in class today. And do not forget a link to the video that guides you on how to join Scratch would be made available after this live session. So that will be all for now, and hopefully we see you guys next time. Bye bye.